the shooting range. In this episode, the M3 Bradley, the one that needs no crew. We try shooting things out of our line of sight. Hotline. The developers answer questions that you've left in the comments. But first, let's start with a monster from France that we promised to talk about a couple of weeks ago. The AMX-50 Surbaissé. Well, look what we have here. A flat body, a huge oscillating turret, and a cannon as big as the rest of the machine itself. You sure actual humans from Earth built it? This magical creature sits at 5th rank, at battle rating of 8.0. By now, you've learned everything you could dig up about the French tanks. So what's different about this one? Well, as strange as this may sound, the only thing that ties the AMX-50 Surbaissé to the family of heavy tanks is the main weapon. You're probably already familiar with the SA-46 120mm cannon. The M103 uses its analog. This bad boy has perfectly adequate elevation angles from -8 up to 14 degrees. However, it'll be more difficult to aim upwards due to the turret's composition. The SA-46 also comes with two types of shells, HE and AP shells, and you can immediately throw the first ones away without ever looking back. Sure, HE shells could take out any LAV without a problem, but they're still just HEs. You can't expect to get too much out of them. AP shells, on the other hand, can dispose of any adversary if you hit the silhouette, with an exception of monstrously armored Soviet tanks. Literally, everyone else is dead meat. You have a penetration rate of 300mm and a 6-second reload rate. Couple that with an impressive caliber, and you'll have an all-round deadly weapon. It's outright fearsome, and not only to vehicles of your battle rating. Even the XM1s won't be too enthusiastic to trifle with you. If you're still not convinced, the cannon also has an autoloader with a total capacity of 19 shells. Your crew's meek human loader won't stand in the way of your greatness. Fire rate. Yeah, it all sounds too good to be true. What's the catch? Oh, you can probably guess. Yep, exactly. Your defensive capabilities are poor. At this battle rating, your opponents will be using heat and APDS shells with penetration rates of 300 to 400mm. That's a lot, right? Want to know how much armor you have? 60mm in the body, 90mm in the turret, almost as thin as the tinfoil wrap you keep in the kitchen. The numbers aren't great, but your armor slope angles are. Look at them. 40, 50, and 60 degrees. More often than not, sloppy potshots in your direction will just ricochet harmlessly. And, the situation under that tinfoil armor of yours is far from hopeless. The crew of 4 men sits far enough from each other. Your enemy will really need to try their best if they want to take you down in a single hit. You can complicate the task even further if you offload your ammunition a bit. Take 19, 21 shells tops. You'll be set for the entire battle. Otherwise, your vehicle will make a marvelous firework display. Your mobility is much, much better than defense. The tank has a decent acceleration dynamic, so you won't trail behind your allies. Sometimes you'll even outrun them slightly. In realistic battles, you can accelerate up to 51 kph. In arcade, up to 55. Standing turn is the same as with the Panthers, 1 track forward, 1 track backwards, so you won't need a lot of space to turn successfully. Finally, the turret rotates swiftly too, 23 degrees per second. No one will outspin you. With all that in mind, we think that the AMX-50 Surbaissé is at its best when you play it as a sniper. Keep your distance, use cover and terrain wisely. Of course, that doesn't mean that you're forbidden from engaging in close quarters. Just be careful and don't be a sitting duck, and you'll mow down your enemies like it's nothing. But don't forget that, unlike your victims, you don't have a stabilizer, so you won't always get the right of the first shot. Use your weapons, fight using your brain, and terrify your enemies. Not only by your outlandish looks, but also with your tremendous firepower. And now we continue to explore the history of the vehicles from the 1.85 update. Let's remember the legendary and long-awaited machine. In one of the previous episodes, we've already talked about the history of the American XM803 tank. This project never went into mass production, but it allowed the Americans to close the progress gap between them and the Soviets. And by the beginning of the 70s, it helped to create a completely new concept of chassis based on the cutting-edge developments of European engineers. If you gloss over its crankiness and a bit overcomplicated maintenance, the core concepts of this chassis still serve as the golden standard for all armored vehicle engineers, not only in the US. That ingenious platform gave birth not only to the famous M1 Abrams, but also to the whole family of armored vehicles known as the Bradley. It primarily consists of APCs and various engineering or specialized vehicles. The most dangerous of them, however, is the M3 Bradley. This beast was conceived as a scout machine, acting as a part of the larger tank corps and motorized infantry companies. But despite its supportive nature, in real combat situations, the M3 Bradley proved itself as an incredibly efficient machine, both in unified mass maneuvers and independent raids behind immediate enemy lines. It also became clear that the M3 Bradley deploys perfectly both from sea and air. It can pull through large rivers and endure sandstorms without breaking a sweat. In 1991, when the Gulf War was raging, these vehicles and their ATMs took down more enemy tanks than the Abrams. On top of that, the US lost only 3 of these machines to enemy fire, which, by the way, speaks highly of the maneuverability of the M3. Because the armor of the Bradley family machines sometimes could submit even to machine gun fire of some Soviet APCs. To be frank, we can also, with a healthy dose of sarcasm, mention that at least 17 M3s fell victims to friendly fire. But that's a purely philosophical matter. Can you blame the creators of the M3 Bradley for the fact that it looks exactly like the Iraqi IFV from above? So, let's instead talk about its accomplishments rather than downfalls. The first on the list is suddenly the armor. Yes, we just said that it's pretty much cardboard, even with numerous improvements in newer versions. However, the modern LAVs are not designed to withstand the impact of anti-tank weapons. Why? They have an active protection system instead. The main feature of the light aluminium 5083 alloy is its resilience, particularly to different chemical solutions used in maintenance. Oh, by the way, this is the prime cause of vehicular corrosion in the US Army. But even with all the lightness of the aluminium 5083, the vehicle still weighs almost 30 tons because it's stuffed with a plethora of high-tech gadgets. There is just so much stuff. The only thing left to install is a portable WC, and we're not even kidding. Soldiers inside the vehicle can take a nap, play some War Thunder, or watch an episode or 2 of The Shooting Range, while the automated IBAS block tracks 2 targets simultaneously, picks an ammunition type, calculates the distance and weather considerations, and then all by itself aims the automatic 25mm cannon or twin toes, all without losing connection to satellites. We only have one question. Does this kind of machine even need a commander? Or a crew, for that matter? And now, let's examine a niche but nevertheless interesting tactic, engaging the enemy without a clear line of sight. First, let's pick our tech. We need something devastatingly deadly. Almost every nation has machines like these. Big, with huge reload rate and a weapon with a caliber larger than 150 millimeters that primarily shoots HE shells. The USA have the Sheridan, the British, the FV-4005, and the Centurion AVRE, the Japanese, the Horo. And as for Germany and the USSR, they've got lots of these killers all over their tech trees, starting with the Sturmpanzer and the Su-122, and up to the giants like the KV-2 and the Brumba, not to mention the ISU-152, the Object 268, and, well, you get the idea. First, let's visit custom battles and familiarize ourselves with the ballistics on different distances to the enemy. Train a bit. Great! Let's go into the fray. If you want to be even more deadly, ask a teammate to play spotter for you on an aircraft or a light tank. That already looks simple enough, so we won't go into arcade battles, and stick with RB and SB modes. Take some distance, let's say to a capture point, and measure it with your range scope. Sometimes it'll be too far to use the range and the aiming scopes at the same time. In that case, input the distance manually using the keys that you'll find in the settings. Hide, wait for the enemy, don't forget about deflection, and shoot. Oh well, we'll get it next time. Reload, repeat. Now that's better. And if you and your spotter are on the same wavelength, you'll become an unstoppable force in a mere 1 or 2 battles. Okay, now if we want to use ATGMs, this is a bit trickier, but the effect is also more devastating. Sure, some machines have reactive armor in the front, and spaced armor is also quite effective on higher ranks, but nobody promised it would be easy. Once again, return to custom battles, measure the distance and the time it takes for the missile to fly there, as all ATGMs have different speed parameters. First, let's start with the first generation of ATGMs. Our target will be... let's kill an Abrams once again. That one. It's difficult, but if we hit it in the roof, that's how you do it. Now, let's test the second generation. Let's say on the Soviet IT-1. The target is about 1 kilometer away. Launch, control the altitude, count 1, 2, 3, and then swiftly aim directly on the target. Well, it seems we're stuck in here. We've made 30 attempts, but only 2 of them were on target. On the other hand, look how this Abrams goes down in flames. If you want to practice this approach in a real fight, it'll be even harder. Almost never will you be able to control speed, time, and altitude at the same time. On the other hand, who said we can only attack from above? It's much easier to attack the opponent hidden behind a building from the side. Launch the missile so that it would appear near the enemy cover and swiftly aim where it needs to hit. Like this. Nobody is safe. Of course, you don't want to use this tactic all the time. It's too unreliable. And right after your shot, you'll draw a lot of retaliatory fire to yourself. Of course, if you're not already covered behind some hill. Still, if you're able to feel and understand the ballistics of your weapon, any cannon with low-speed shells will turn into a deadly airborne madness. And what unique tactics do you prefer? Tell us in the comments, and we might cover them later as well. Get ready for the traditional last part of our show, Hotline. Developers answering questions from the comments. The first question comes from a user called Julian Müller.
Hi Bruce, I have several questions. 1. Can you add more planes with high-caliber guns to kill tanks and ships? 2. Naval battles. Will there be any big changes like subs or missiles or bigger ships? 3. Bruce, can you make more content focused on you, like Gaijin Backstage or perhaps an own YouTube channel? Love what you are doing. Thanks for the great game. Greetings.
Hi there, mate. We'll definitely add more planes with high-caliber guns. But we'll also do justice to tanks and ships, so don't expect the game to become easier. The changes in naval battles are also inevitable. We've only opened this mode like a couple of months ago, and we aren't finished with introducing all the nations. So, yeah, when we make all these first steps, we'll start inventing other things to spice up this mode. As for the third question, well, I'd love to, but it's not quite as easy as I would like it to be. Personally, yeah, bring it on. Gaijin wanted to create a different aspect, and all you players have been so very supportive of the tremendous work and complexity involved in the production of the Never in a Hurry documentary. And thank you all for your warmth and appreciation. If the devs decide that they're able to, then it is a possibility. I'll keep my fingers crossed. I can always hope. Then there's another message coming from Nodal Bandit. Will you guys ever work on game lighting, such as street lights, tank headlights, aircraft landing lights, ship helicopter spotlights, etc.? I notice the only form of lights we have in the game are from the AI ships at night. Hi there, mate. We do work on the environment and atmosphere of the game in almost every update, and try to make it as cool as it can be. As for the lights specifically, this aspect has a direct influence on the gameplay, since anything that has lights can be spotted and shot more easily. So we have to be careful here. We don't say that we will never ever introduce or improve any of the things you've mentioned, but this will take some time and a lot of testing. And the last, very serious message comes from
Cloudy Forkan.
Where went Russian bias? Can't find it back.
Hi there, mate. The Russian bias got really tired of all your requests and shouts, so we had to send it on a paid vacation to restore at least part of its mental health. If it ever returns, you'll know it first. That's it for today, but feel free to write your questions in the comments below. We do read them all, and you might see some of them answered in the next episode. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you on the shooting range.